Welcome back to my channel, everyone. This week I'll be giving you another installment of Mystery Mondays as part of my ongoing collaboration with Paranormalauraa. If you haven't already checked out her channel, I'll link her in the description box below, so be sure to subscribe to her as this is her series. This week she's given me a really creepy mystery to talk about, so let's get started on the Hinterkaifeck murders. Located 70 kilometers north of Munich lies the village of Kaifeck. Of the several farms that made up the Bavarian village, it was Hinterkaifeck, built deep within a German forest, which was to become synonymous with darkness. Everyone in Kaifeck knew of the Grubers, the family of 5 that ran and lived in Hinterkaifeck. 63-year-old Andreas Gruber, his 72-year-old wife Cecilia, and their widowed daughter Victoria. Victoria had 2 children, 2-year-old Joseph and 7-year-old Cecilia. The Grubers were something of an outcast family within the village. Andreas was known by locals to physically abuse his wife and was even convicted of having an incestuous relationship with Victoria. It was thought that he was even the biological father of her 2-year-old son Joseph. One morning, in March 1922, Andreas Gruber was inspecting the grounds of his farm after a brief snowfall the night before. He noticed a set of footprints in the fresh snow, leading to the back of his home. Andreas followed the tracks until they suddenly stopped a few feet from the house. The tracks did not turn back. He turned around and began to follow the tracks the other way, through the fields and deep into the woods. Finding nothing missing or out of order within the grounds, tool shed, house or barn, Andreas was mystified by what appeared to be a late-night visitor to the remote farm. Who was he, and why were there no tracks leading back to the woods? Was there somebody hiding inside his home? Later that night, he was awoken by the sound of footsteps coming from his attic. Andreas woke his wife, who retrieved his gun. After inspecting the attic and the rest of the house, he found nothing and went back to bed. The next morning, he discovered an unfamiliar newspaper sitting on his porch. Neither he nor any other members of his family recognized the newspaper. He also found that his keys had gone missing from his desk and decided to check the tool shed for them. Before opening the door to the shed, he found that someone had tried to pick the lock. He questioned his family to no avail. It was the latest in a series of strange events at the farm. Several weeks earlier, the maid had suddenly quit and refused to spend a single night longer at the farm, citing ghosts and hauntings as the reason for her unexpected departure. The day after the keys had gone missing, the Gruber's new maid, Maria, arrived at Hinterkaifeck. Little did she know that her first day at the farm would also be her last day to live. 4 days later, villagers began to notice that the Grubers had not been seen recently. Little Cecilia had not shown up for school, and the postman noted that the mail had piled up, uncollected. The villagers put together a search party and made their way through the woods to the farm, which was shrouded in an eerie silence. In the barn, they were horrified to find the bodies of Andreas, his wife Cecilia, daughter Victoria, and granddaughter Cecilia, laying amidst a large pool of blood. All appeared to have been lured into the barn and killed one by one as they entered. Even more horrifying, the little girl had pulled out clumps of her own hair before she died. Investigators concluded that her family had been killed in front of her while she lay dying. Inside the farmhouse, they found Joseph and Maria, the new maid, also laying in a pool of blood. The Munich Police Department were notified immediately. They found that nothing of value had been taken from the house. In fact, whoever had killed the Grubers had also slept in and eaten food from the house for days afterwards. In addition, the livestock had been fed throughout the weekend. Neighbors had reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney during that time. Police found a large sum of money and other valuables scattered throughout the house, dispelling their initial theory that the crime had been a robbery gone bad. The police questioned villagers, travellers and migrant workers from the surrounding areas, with no leads. Meanwhile, The autopsy reports confirmed that the 6 victims had been murdered with a mattock, which had been found at the scene. It was speculated that Victoria's former fiancé, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, could have been the killer. It was believed that though she had rejected him, she had declared him to be the father of her son Josef, and had attempted to claim money from him in compensation. Schlittenbauer informed police of the incestuous relationship between Victoria and Andreas, and said that the boy was in fact Andreas's son. But what of the so-called haunting at Hinterkaifeck? What had the maid seen that had scared her so completely as to compel her to leave the farm? What was the unidentified being that dwelled within the shadows of the farm and forests that surrounded it? With no evidence to pin on Lorenz Schlittenbauer, and no other explanation as to who or what committed the murders at Hinterkaifeck, the case grew cold. The farm was demolished the following year in 1923. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved.